Welcome to Shul.com. We are here this morning at the Surfside Kolel Boker, learning from the practical guide for a Ben Torah by Solomon Mishan Mercado, a very easy, simple guide where he broke down all different ideas on being a Ben Torah. We are up to Torah studying LESHEM SHAMAYIM, for the sake of heaven and for no other purpose. The Stipler said, the essence of studying Torah is to study LESHEM SHAMAYIM and not to receive honors, respect, and or applause. That's brought down in Chaye Olam on the introduction.
What about gratification?
Gratification would be okay, and so would be enjoyment.
Because you love to do it.
Yeah, that would be absolutely okay. Actually, that's probably the goal.
Is
That would probably be the highest level. You're supposed to study LESHEM SHAMAYIM, but you should start studying not LESHEM SHAMAYIM. What do you mean? Well, why would I say that if the Stipler said to study LESHEM SHAMAYIM? Because we have a previous Ma'amar Hazal, Le'olam Yehei Adam Shelo Lishma, Shemitoch Shelo Lishma Ba Lishma. When we convince people to come to learn, we convince them in any way possible. Come for the breakfast, come to hang out with the guys, come to get away from your wife. Any reason we can get them to come to shul, we tell them to come. The problem is, if the guy's coming to shul for ice cream when he was a young kid, is okay. But if he's 42 years old and he's still coming for the Haagen-Dazs ice cream, and he's still waiting online with his kids for the extra candy, I mean, we might have to adjust that Ma'amar Hazal to his age, but always come to shul for any reason. Now, why is that? Why would the rabbis tell you, do it shelo lishma? Do it not for the sake of heaven.
Because eventually it's...
Okay, eventually we hope. But why would they even say that? Because etzem adam ra' min ne'orav. The etzem, the foundation, the essence of a human being is wicked from its initial nature. So what do? We play the game of the Yetzer Hara the same way he is. For 13 years, he had a heads up. He was playing all of his tricks in his game. So what do we do? We tell the guy the same thing. Listen, come in the beginning, shelo lishma. Etzem adam ra' min ne'orav. The beginning, okay, it wasn't so perfect, but we expect later on that it will be lishma, and we play the same game. We tell the guy, no, come to shul for this. Don't come to pray. Come to see your friend. Don't talk to your friend during tefillah, but come to see him. After you see him, oh, you know what, I'm here already, so I'll come pray, I'll come do the things LESHEM SHAMAYIM. Likewise, the Gaon Mevilna wrote, it's much better to study less, but LESHEM SHAMAYIM, than studying much more, but not LESHEM SHAMAYIM. For example, to receive respect and honors, as brought down in Ibn Shelama 8-13. So, of course, the Hachamim always wrote, Tov me'at b'kavana, v'harbe belo kavana. That's a little bit different than this, because that's talking about actually understanding and concentration what you're saying. Here you're saying doing it for the sake of heaven. But so you understand the ma'amad. There's a concept, toch shelo lishma ba lishma, that from not being, if you would say, legitimately for the sake of heaven, you'll come towards that at one point. Which means this person can study Torah and do mitzvot not LESHEM SHAMAYIM, not for the right reasons, only for studying. But one day, if he continues studying, he'll get to the level of doing it LESHEM SHAMAYIM. The Gaon Mevilna explains that this is just when someone studies with concentration or he's following his parents' custom. But if he does it to receive honors, the rule does not apply toch shelo lishma ba lishma. So toch shelo lishma ba lishma, according to the Gaon Mevilna here, is that when he's studying with concentration and he's following his parents' customs, but he's not doing it for the sake of heaven. But if a person does it just to receive honor, then he won't have that biracha come to him, which means he'll start not for the sake of heaven and get to that point. Because the point, of course, is to do it shelo lishma, and that's brought down Ibn Shelama 8-12. Another critical point, Rabbi Alexander Ziskind wrote, our intention studying should only be to give satisfaction, nachat ruach, to the Borei Olam. So the purpose of learning Torah is only for one reason, according to Rabbi Alexander Ziskind, is to make God proud. He brought us to this world. He said, I gave you this book. I gave you these laws. I want you to study them. And That's all. Starts and ends with that. That's brought on Yesod V'Shoresh Avodah in the Tzeva'a Kedusha HaKedosha 1. A person shouldn't boast or brag about what he has studied, has overcome, has grown, and has achieved. For example, yesterday I stayed until 2 a.m. studying. It's already written in the Pirkei Avot, if you studied a lot of Torah, don't show off, since that's what you were created for. As brought down in Pirkei Avot 2-8. When Rav Shach was old and began to think about his life, he wondered, with what will I arrive in the Beit Din Shel Mala, the heavenly judgment? To which his students told him that he would get many honors for having written his excellent book, Avi Ezri. But Rav Shach replied that although it's a really good book, he already had received many honors and applause in this world, then he would have nothing left in Olam Haba. That's brought down in the Pesach Haggadah of Rav Shach. What was he saying over there? He was saying that after writing the book and receiving all these accolades and receiving all these blessings, what was the maskana? He was worried that he might come to the Shamayim and they're going to tell him for all that kavod, there has to be a price to pay. And kavod, honor, as we've spoken back in the past, is something that is all spiritual. There's nothing physical about honor. Honor is not something you can touch and it's not tangible. And it's something you feel. And it's something that people want and that they'll go out to acquire. Therefore, if you receive much honor for doing something spiritual, then you're getting a payment of a sort to that spiritual act. The act of writing a book on religion is a spiritual act. But receiving all those honors, that you got a reward. And so there were many Hachamim who wrote LESHEM. They wrote books without a name on it. Or they printed them after they were dead already and after they had passed away. Therefore, any honor they received would have been pure. It would have been just for the sake of writing it, not to acquire that honor. And so it's important to know that.
But you're still getting honor after you pass away. God forbid somebody passes
Yeah, but
away.
it's
You're still getting honor.
yes, but because he's not physically here, it's more divinely in the Shem Shamayim. He's not here. He waited. He could have taken that honor while he was alive to benefit from it, but now he's not benefiting from it physically. Maybe his children, maybe his family. He will spiritually in the heavenly realms. But that's a very important. A person needs to know that there's a reason why the rabbis told you to run away from kavod. They didn't want the guy to come after 120 years and to come to an empty bank account. And then God's going to tell him, listen, you forgot? I gave you all that honor. Oh, when people came into the shul, you had 37 people shaking your hand for really no purpose. What was the purpose? Why did they shake your hand? You gadol hador? What did you... So a person has to be careful when it comes to kavod.
And now all of a sudden in Shamayim he doesn't have honor because he took the honor and
taking your honor here does clean away because honor is something that's all spiritual. Rav Musafi talks about this all the time in regards to the plaques. He goes, when a person does a big mitzvah of donation and putting a big plaque, of course plaques are okay. Plaques have been around for years and they encourage other people to donate and there's a good system. But when everything is the plaque and only the plaque, it's a problem. Right. It's a problem. A person is cleaning up his zichuyot. Now, of course, you're not going to hear this from the individual selling you the plaque or from the one who's taking the donation, but that's okay. He's doing the mitzvah. He's going to do it for the right reasons, and you should do it for the right reasons also. You can build and do many things in the Torah world with Be'ilu Shem. We're not having your name on the forefront. Or Porat Le'elu Nishmat, your grandparents, in honor of my grandparents. That's it. It's not on your name. It's a little bit more clean, and there's a big ma'ala on that. And the person has, just like in business, will tell you don't invest in penny stocks, or don't invest in cryptocurrency when it's on the down. And you tell me, what do you mean? What's the big deal? It's cryptocurrency. I was like, yeah, but your investment may go down to nil, and you don't want that to happen. Same thing with Torah mitzvot. Person needs to know where to invest Torah mitzvot, and also how not to clean up. Right. How not to pull out from the ATM from that. It's good to read the tefillah mentioned in the Gemara before and after studying. The tefillah is at the end of this book. He says here, and that's wrote down in Masechet Berachot 28b. He has, let's see if he has it here in Hebrew. I don't see it here quickly in Hebrew, but that's the famous tefillah to protect the person, that his friends shouldn't laugh at him, he shouldn't make any mistakes, and things like that. You see it in the beginning of the Gemariyot. One of the questions that the heavenly judgment asks is, Kabata itim la Torah. What's kabata itim? Did you set aside time to study Torah? So we're going to get to this. Is a very important one. This is a famous ma'amar from Masechet Shabbat 31a. Poskim questioned if an avrech or a moreh, a teacher, earns his livelihood for studying, fulfills the obligation of studying Torah, since it could be considered that he studies or teaches Torah to earn his livelihood. Right. That's why it's important to study extra time in which you are not paid to study or teach. You can see that in Sharet Teshuvah Orah Hayim 155-1. So if a teacher is being paid to teach, that might not be kavat ha'itim la Torah, him setting aside time. Now it's important with setting aside time, it's not just learning Torah every day, it's that you actually set a book or a time and say, I'm going to study this daily. This could be, by the way, 5 minutes. It could be 5 minutes before you go to bed. If you read one Mishnah, you did kavat ha'itim la Torah. That's all. And you should do in the morning, a morning time, and the evening time. But by doing that, you're covered. Now, obviously, if a person's studying Mishnayot, then he could study Gemara, or he could study Halacha and something that's more advanced. That's a different situation. But you have to set a set time every day to learn.
Or coming to shul in the morning and learning.
That's it. That's kavat ha'itim.
That's okay. Yeah,
That's actually the best situation because you
even
can.
just listening to
Yes.
halachot at the end of
Yes.
Shabbat.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that. Listen.
And listening on a
It's a little
WhatsApp
bit
or on a
tough to
YouTube.
do.
Just
You know?
not personally taking your time.
But you're getting like the.
I don't know if you were koveh those 18. I'll tell you why. Because you don't have a choice. You didn't choose that individual to get up there. That wasn't your choice. So with kavat 18, maybe you get a reward for learning Torah. For sure you get a reward. But kavat 18 is you set the time. Not that the individual, the rabbi of the shul, came up and did halachot. You didn't set that time.
What about going on your WhatsApp and listening to a shiur?
If you do it every single day.
No, not at the same time, not at the same day. If you just do it.
So the right way to do this.
You gotta. Yes, it's not the ultimate way to do it,
Yeah.
but it's still.
So
you're still getting
But we're talking about
credit for learning Torah.
You're always going to get credit. We're not talking about getting credit. A person,
Right.
by the way, a person could learn every single day and have no kavat ha'itim la
You're
Torah.
you're not getting credit for having a set time for Torah.
God wants you to set a scheduled time or sefer, meaning, let's say you want to take one book and say, I'm going to read this book every single day for a certain amount of time, and I'm going to do this amount of curriculum. That's what kavat ha'itim is.
Right.
You're not only setting up time, you're setting up a standard for every single day.
A scheduled time.
A scheduled
That's
time.
the word.
Now, and by the way, the scheduled time, again, it does not need to be long.
Right.
Don't get carried away. Of course, learning for half an hour is better. But if it's less time, that's okay. But you need to have a set time. That's one of the questions they're going to ask at the end of a person's life. Simple. You know what's funny? We actually have, it's an open book
We know the
test.
answer,
We know the questions. The answers are hard. There's other ones. Did you do
Right.
business properly? And there's a lot.
Right.
There's a lot of different hiddushim on how to look at those questions, what they really truly mean. But it's interesting. One of the first questions is kavata itim la Torah. First, before we begin, they're going to ask you, hey, listen, did you set time to learn? We're not going to ask you if you kept the Torah, because first we want to know if you sat and learned it. Because we know if you didn't keep the Torah, if you didn't learn it. It's impossible to expect to know all the laws. Shabbat, Yom Tov, Hagim, Inyanei de Yoma, all the Gemariyot, Mishnayot, Halachot. How is a person going to know all this? So the first question is, listen, we're not going to ask you if you finished. You're not obligated to finish and learn everything. It's not your job. Believe it or not, that's not your obligation to finish and learn everything. But did you at least set a time to try to climb that mountain? Or did you just take a tour once every few weeks around the mountain? Oh, look, here's a mountain. I'm giving you just a little mashal.
Funny because a lot of the WhatsApp groups of the rabbis in Israel, what they'll tell you in the beginning when you join the group, you get a special message. And I got this from one. It's funny when we speak about this now, about a month ago. It says, please have this with your morning coffee or after you drop off the kids. Like, you want to listen to these 7 minutes, you didn't come to shul, no problem. You want to have your coffee from 9 to 9:10, that's when you listen to this.
Right.
And then you have kivut itim.
Exactly. So you check that box, because then you could, to your point, Jonathan, you could study your whole life, you could know the baki baracha, baki and everything, but you never actually set that aside. You can't answer yes to that question. The guy who studied a minute a day can answer yes to that question.
Yes, 100%.
Not that it's better, but just like you check the box at least with this exercise.
For sure. And to go further, the Rogachover, Rav Yosef Rosen, one of the geniuses of the 20th century of Europe, he was from Devinsk. He lived in the city with the Meshech Chochmah, Rav Meir Simcha Kohen Devinsk. He was a Gaon. And when people would ask him questions, he didn't even take the time to answer the questions. What he would just do is just write them where to look up the answers. He would write the Gemara, Masechet Shabbat 21. He would write the Siman 23 in the Shulchan Aruch. He would just give them the source and tell them, okay, go check it up. That's the answer. He has a famous ma'amad in which he states that something unbelievable, that if you want to hear God in your day-to-day life, learn consistently one sefer the whole way through. Whether it's a Gemara, or it's Halacha, or even this book, when you learn the same sefer every single day in a system, you're going to see God speak to you. There's a special he'arot that come from it. And we see it here all the time. I saw it my whole life with Rabbi Mansour, where he would sit and do one part in the morning, then he would do the second part in the mid-morning, and then later on. And every single part, it was like a thread connecting all the learning. You'll see this rabbi mentioned the same thing, and it would all, cannot have planned it. So it's important to know that you get special he'arot when you're learning a sefer, and we do it as we're doing here every day.
It happens to us every day here.
We see it all the time. Okay, it's important to study with joy and pleasure, showing that the Torah is important to him, and it's what gives him his life's satisfaction. That's brought down in the Vush 47. So it's important that when you're studying out of simha. You're not studying under duress, under pressure. You're studying because, listen, we're Jews. There's a lot written. We are the people of the book, and there's no joke that we have all these books that are written and more books written to explain the books that were written, and then people explaining the books that were written to explain the other books. It's a constant learning thing, but you need to do it out of love and satisfaction. How do you do that? The Torah is very big. And I tell everybody, find the subjects that speak to you. God created everybody with different faces, with different minds, like the Gemara tells us. And just like the face is different, so too are the way they think. You might think, hey, I'm going to explain it to you in the way that I'm thinking, and you're going to get it. Sometimes the guy doesn't get it, or he doesn't accept it. The Gemara is giving you a rule. Just like their faces look different, so too are their minds, in the same exact capacity. And so a person has to find what speaks to him. If you like halacha, great. You like Musad, you like Gemara, you like Midrashim. Maybe you're a Chumash Rashi guy. You're a guy who loves Rashi.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're a Nevi'im.
So focus on that.
Focus on, obviously, I always tell everyone, in Yanid Yomab halacha, you have to do. That means, what do I need to do on a daily basis? What's my halachot? What are my requirements? That you got to learn. And we try to study all the time halachot, because that's the basics. And also the Gemara in Masechet Berachot tells us that the presence of God is only going to be in the 4 cubits of learning laws, because God fits his Shekhinah within those guidelines. So it's important that you're learning halachot. But besides those halachot, sit and learn the subject you like. And I mentioned this many times. I know I was in Brooklyn, part of a kollel over there that I was praying at. I wasn't learning the kollel with them, but I was praying there. And I saw many people learning the kollel for years. And I saw them doing basic halachot improperly. And I mentioned to them, I told him, like, when did you learn Orah Hayim? When did you learn any of these halachot? He said, no. I said, I'm learning Gemara at 5. Then I learn Gemara again at 7:15. And then I do another Gemara at night. I told him, and? He said, I'm learning 3 Gemariyot, one Be'iyun, one Beki'ud, this one. I told him, you got to learn basic halachot. Before, I'm like, you need to know Hilchot Shabbat. You need to know Hilchot this. Now, you don't have to know them perfectly, but at least try.
Right.
Learning Gemara is great, but the assumption that Gemara is going to teach a person everything is inaccurate. People that are sitting learning Baba Kama his whole life and doesn't know halachot, or doesn't know the basics of even the story of the parashiyot, of the Nevi'im.
Right.
There's 24 books in the Tanakh. The guy never opened up any of outside of the 5 books. He never opened them up other than a haftarah of the end of the week. Why?
Right.
There's a hierarchy.
It's a yeshiva misconception that like that's intro, that's beginner. I think.
It can't be beginner. Those were all written by prophets. The Gemara was not written by prophets.
If you go and you ask a lot of these guys trivia questions about even the Chumash, like dates and ages and stuff, they don't know it.
But question: is there a mitzvah to know everything in the Torah? I don't, like,
Yes.
So
Yes.
question. Let's if I want to dedicate my life to right now, I want to be baki in Masechet Megillah, and this and halachot is the only thing I study.
Yes.
Am I not getting other mitzvot, or am I over on something by not studying the Shas, by not?
No. So first you're studying Masechet Megillah. You mentioned
You're
doing halachot, and let's say you want to devote your life to doing research in one Torah subject that speaks to you.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, I'll give you a case. There was two rabbis, Nehemiah and Shimon HaAmsoni. Shimon HaAmsoni and Nehemiah they had a little idea. Their idea was, there was a mahloket who said it, if it was one or the other. They had an idea that if you look in the Torah, why does it say the word et? Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. He said it could have just said Bereshit bara Elohim hashamayim ve'haaretz. You don't need the word et. Et is a superfluous word. So he had it twice, and he had a concept that every time the word et is found in the Torah, it's et lerabot, et to teach you something. And so he came up with a beautiful concept, and he started writing the Sefer, or teaching the Sefer, and then he got a problem. It says, et Hashem Elohecha tira. So he says, et, you have to fear God. Et Hashem Elohecha tira, et lerabot. So he said, who else do I have to fear other than God? And he realized that maybe his ideology of having et lerabot, et, to teach something new, might be faulty. But he sat and he did all the research, and he finished the entire Torah. He was down to just that one et, and he couldn't. And he said, okay, the same way I got reward for sitting and doing the research and putting it together, I'll have reward for ending the research and putting it away into Genizah, because it was good to learn and to do it, but I guess the maskana didn't work. Then came Rabbi Akiva, he said, no, he said, you did a great job. He said, et is lerabot talmidei chachamim, that when it says, et Hashem Elohecha tira, that you have to fear God, it's talking that you must fear the Lord, only God. But who else? His teacher, those that are teachers, teaching the people, the rabbis. And so you have to fear them too. Now, not every rabbi gets that extra credit boost. He has to be LESHEM SHAMAYIM, he has to be a Talmid Hacham, Tochol Kevoro, he has to have Talmidim, he has to love Klal Yisrael, he has to make sure he doesn't talk during the Tefillah, he's not talking during Kaddish, he's not talking during Hazarat Hasha, he's not talking during Kiryat Torah. There's a level. Right. But those that reach that level, you respect them like you respect God. So now,
and it's very important to differentiate who are those that deserve that, and that, like you said, are actually on that level, because I think we also live in a society where, unfortunately, and I'm sure everyone has been around here, a lot of rabbis out there that are A, phony, or B, fanatics, and that don't have those qualities that you mentioned, those simple things of like, not so simple, but important, of like Ahavat Israel.
So
it's very important to really understand who represents that, right?
So Benjamin, you're saying good. The one way that I learned, that I saw from all the rabbis that I learned in both New York, in New Jersey, in Brooklyn, in Deal, and in Israel, is la maskana, the following. Obviously, it's not a perfect system, but those that are sitting and learning Torah every single day, you see them learning and teaching halachot, gemariot. And then the second thing, those individuals that stay away from females and married women. Those two things were always the rule I had. Meaning, are they sitting and learning every single day? Are they teaching every single day? And do they stay away from the opposite gender? The reason I say that...
also care about they feel the pain.
Okay, I'm saying that's actually the reason I say...
This is how people make them be. If somebody going to sit and learn and stay away from everything, he's not going to become nothing, because nobody... know about him, and he's not doing anything for Klal Yisrael.
Also, I disagree with that. That this is actually the Gemara says someone who thinks like that is an apikoros, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to explain to you. I'm not calling you an apikoros. You'll say I love you, But I'm going to tell you why this is very important. We believe that a person who sits and learns and doesn't teach anybody is doing a tremendous benefit and beracha to both Am Yisrael and the entire world. We believe that if I sat down here all by myself with no recording and just sat and read and learned Torah and focused on it with nobody, and I didn't even teach anybody, and I didn't even repeat anything that we were learning, I'm providing blessing for you, for Lior, for Benjamin, for John, for everybody here in this room. And you're all getting beracha, you're all getting protection. The Torah's magneh and matzleh.
It's like the guy that-
And so, one
the
second.
one that became malach, what is his name?
Chanoch.
Hanoch.
Yeah, he came
He
matat.
malach, but nobody know about him.
No, so
and
one
he
second.
became Avraham Avinu or
Yeah, but-
Moshe Rabbeinu.
Okay, so
It's
very
like
good.
the guy in
So-
New York that never put tefillin in his life, and one day you see him and you put tefillin for him, and he tells you, what is this gonna do? I'd rather go to Israel and write a check or do something for the soldiers. And no, I explained this to someone the other day. I was at an event, and he's like, I don't wear tefillin. I'm like, look, you put it once a month, and he's like, you think it'll help in Israel? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, but how? I'm in Miami or I'm in New York. I'm like, no, it's gonna help. You don't realize what it could do. He's like, okay, Ben. He's like, then I'm gonna start doing it maybe once a month, just putting on tefillin. I completely agree, because that little mitzvah, this guy who never puts it, and his tefillin is maybe 40-something years old, has been sitting in his
Yeah, but I'm going
closet
even
for
further.
30 years.
Benjamin, I'm going even further. What I'm saying is that you're talking about a physical act of
Right.
actually putting tefillin. I'm telling Yossi even more.
Right.
Person sitting and learning Torah brings blessing to other people, even not to himself. When we're sitting and learning here, I want to tell you something. Everybody in Surfside is benefiting from the fact that we're learning in here.
For sure.
Everybody's getting. Now, for example, I'm gonna go.
Does the act of tefillin also, like I
Now-
said, though, benefit everyone?
For sure,
One and
tefillin,
the soldiers and everyone in
there's
Israel?
for sure it benefits, and that's a mitzvah. But Talmud Torah is on a much higher level,
Higher level.
much higher level.
So you have to
When
start somewhere
when you
with
talk
these people,
about
huh?
this thing, I thought you were talking about the Golim of Am Yisrael.
Yeah.
Who is, because for me,
Yeah, because I say what I understand.
Gadol,
What you're
somebody
saying.
Gadol, it's somebody that take with him Am Yisrael, he feel the
Okay.
pain, they coming to him. So you say he's not looking at women, he's not Kabbalat Kahal and all these things, he know how to do it, and he's learning, but he also, have Kabbalat Kahal, he listen to Am Yisrael, he pray for them. he
Okay,
feel the pain.
so I'm
That's what
okay. So
make
I got
him,
it. You-
Make him Rabbi Han Kanievsky, Rabbi Ovadia, or the big rabbis.
So-
If you see them learn, nobody,
Okay, you're saying something good. What you're saying is that you're kind of putting in the argument that I've put forward to some of the more established kolelim, where I told them I definitely know hands down all the kolelim is tremendous beracha just to sit and learn, but I was always more for telling them, if you're going to have these kolelim, produce. What do I mean produce? Put together writings, recordings, videos. That way, we're using the kolel to teach others as well. But if the kolel decides that they just want to sit and learn and not even produce, they bring a tremendous beracha. It brings a lot of shemirah. It brings a lot of success. Sometimes a community, they're having some issues, parnasa. The people are not doing so well. You open a kolel, boom, all the beracha starts to come to everybody. Everyone starts to get better. No one gets sick. There's a tremendous beracha just from the essence of having a group of men and even females sitting and doing mitzvot or learning Torah, obviously separated. It has a tremendous beracha. It's what's the best way to explain it? Like we explained that Torah is like water. Imagine living in the town of Surfside where there's no running water. The only way you get water is through the well. Only through a well. And that's how you're going to get your spring water. Without water, everything stops. All of the way we can eat, drink, shower, live, everything's on hold. The Torah is the individual who digs the wells of water. Now, how much water can the guy who digs the well, how much can he drink? He could drink a cup, 2 cups. His family could drink a 5-gallon jug. How much? But he just dug the well that everyone in the town is drinking from.
Right.
And that's the same thing, a good example of Torah. He's a well digger. That's why when it came to Yitzhak Avinu, Abraham Avinu, what does it say? They dug wells, teaching us a lesson about learning and teaching Torah. You might say to yourself, I'm digging all this well, how much water am I going to drink? The same thing like Torah. You're digging and you're digging, you're going to only have a certain portion. That's why you see sometimes the biggest Hasidim, the biggest Gedolim, the biggest Rabbanim, They live b'tzimtzum. You go to his house. The guy's got a broken chair.
Yeah.
The whole place is falling apart. Nothing has been renovated since the 1960s, and he has a tremendous amount of simcha.
Right.
He has an electrifying kedusha. You go next to him, you feel it.
Right.
You always said spirituality, you couldn't feel it. You go to this Giddulim, you feel it. You literally feel something is there.
100%.
And they disconnect themselves from the materialistic world, and they're sitting and they're focused all day on this. And there is an inyan on it. And so obviously, if he goes out to Klal Yisrael, it's great, and we need those people. We need advisors, and we need people that are going to learn and sit and advise Klal Yisrael. And we need those that are just going to sit and learn. You have no idea how many people sit and learn their whole lives and will never ever be recognized, ever.
Right.
Some of them will never write a book. Sometimes will just sit and learn and give their heart to God. And that brings a tremendous beracha for all of Klal Yisrael. Someone who says, what good does all these rabbis sitting and learning doesn't do anything good for me? The Gemara calls him apikoros.
But who is bigger? There's someone that does this and also helping himself, or somebody that's sitting
It's a good
for
question.
himself?
It's a good question. But lemaskana,
I don't think this is a question.
it's a good question. But lemaskana, we're going to say for sure the one who produces, and I'll tell you why. Because imagine Cham Vadia Yosef sat his whole life and learned,
Right?
And he
And-
didn't share it.
and he didn't share.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Didn't share, or he would tell people, I don't allow you to videotape me when I'm teaching. I've had rabbis say, I don't allow videotaping. Okay, I don't allow. Okay, fine, whatever it is. They had their own shita. They didn't. Now we would be dumbfounded. We would be very confused.
Right.
Yeah, for example, I recently saw a video of a Havdalah, Chamavadia Yosef, how he did the Havdalah. You look at how he did the Havdalah, it's very different than the way other people wrote it. But I saw the maskana, how he did it. I cannot tell you how many times I've watched rabbis, Shimush Tamidei Chachamim, do things different than completely I've learned and different than it's written. When you see the maskana, how they do it, it's a different level.
Right.
And so it's important that we have those that are doing right, record and put themselves on the forefront. It's not even being humble. It's the opposite.
It's diffusing.
It's
you have to diffuse the Torah.
it's very important. Now,
Absolutely.
effort and dedication. For a true Ben Torah, it's not enough to study a few hours a day and have fulfilled his study schedule. A true Ben Torah wants to learn in depth and improve day by day. So it's interesting. He says here, not even a few hours a day. So go figure. The Stipler said, the main thing is to study with effort and a lot of dedication, as well as to understand everything perfectly, reviewing it 4 times. That's brought down in Chayolam 3 and Leket Hanhagat Leben Torah, page 6. So what he's saying here, the Stipler, is that a lot of times you want to study and your goal is to finish. Of course, there's a lot of great programs out there like the Daf Yomi, but the Daf Yomi's goal is to finish the Daf every day. That's good. The problem is you're not going to cover a lot of ground in depth unless
Right.
you do it over and over. And so I definitely encourage everyone to do Daf Yomi and every type of learning, but you need to know there is a level of depth where you actually understand and remember what it is that you are learning. Because it's a big difference just to read something and repeat it or translate as opposed to being a sponge and allowing it to set forth into your body. Now, what it says here, reviewing it 4 times. So you want to review it 4 times according to the Stipler you're learning. How many times do you learn something and then repeat it 4 times? Or hear this class 4 times. There is an inyan. When you do it this way, it has a big ma'ala. The Stipler wrote,
Right, because it resonates with you, and then what I always say is, if you learn something, you have to be able to repeat it to someone else and have them fully understand it. Otherwise, you didn't learn it.
Of course.
If you're not able to repeat it and teach it to someone else, then you didn't fully comprehend what you learned.
the Stipler wrote, we should study with a good havruta, who doesn't make bitul Torah or speak vain words in the middle of study, since it's an important thing is that he really wants to excel in Torah and Yirat Shamayim, as per in Leket Hanagat Leben Torah, page 5, that you want to find the havruta that's going to sit and learn with you. I remember when Rabbi Mansour opened up the Kolel Hatzot. He opened up a Kolel Hatzot at nighttime. They would learn every single night as protection for the community in Brooklyn.
Till 12?
They started at 12. They started at
Is
12.
that with my friend's dad, Handler?
Rabbi Handler,
Rabbi
yes.
Handler?
Rabbi from Hatzalah.
Yeah.
Now,
but,
so
Jonathan Handler's dad.
they had Yes, yeah, Jonathan. Jonathan.
Yeah.
He lives over here in Miami.
Yeah.
I know.
You know his dad?
He mentioned. I know his dad very well. His
Yeah.
father's a Tamid Hacham.
Big Talmid Chacham.
Yeah.
I just
So-
got his book. He wrote a book
So the
on Berachot.
when
How to say
when we
Berachot properly.
when we did the Kolel Hatzot in the evening, one guy in the shul mentioned to me, he said to me, you know those two guys over there? There were two Avrechim. They are the children of Chamaeli Halife. He was a big mikubal, Tamid Hacham, who lived in Brooklyn, used to ride a bicycle, very humble man, wore simple, regular clothing. He passed away not too long ago, and he had two of his children were learning the Kol HaTzatzot. One guy told me, he said, you know the two children learning the Kol HaTzatzot? He said, yeah. He said they sit down at 12, they don't get up until 5, not even to go to the bathroom. He said they're so matmidim, they sit down to learn. He goes, they don't talk about anything other than the learning, and he doesn't even get up to go use the rest. Doesn't get up for a cup of water. Goes to show you there are different levels. There's a guy who comes to shul to learn the kolel that is getting coffee, he's stopping to have his lunch, he's getting his breakfast, he's going out, coming in, and then there is also that. And you know why we need those examples? Because we need to look up to a group and say,
You're gonna strive to something.
strive to something. The Stipler said, studying with a lot of effort and dedication is better than studying 100 times without much effort. All of the Siyata Dishmaya is only when we study with effort and dedication, as brought down in Leket Hanagat Leben Torah, page 6. When the Gaon Mevilna was at school, he studied with a boy who was the same age as him, but smarter. So so I'll repeat it. When the Gaon Mevilna was at school,
Smarter than the Gaon
he studied with a boy who was the same age as him, but he was smarter than the Gaon Mevilna. After growing up, the boy grew a lot in the Torah, but not to the level of the Gaon. The Gaon superseded this boy that was smarter. His childhood friend asked the Gaon Vilna how he got to that level since he couldn't do it. The Gaon Vilna responded, there's a lot of Gemaras that say that one who studies 100 times is not the same as the one who studies 101 times. That's brought down in Masechet Chagigat, page 9. Do you believe that Gemara? The friend replied, of course I believe the Gemara. The Gaon Vilna told him, I also believe the Gemara, but I wanted to prove it to myself. He said, and you're smarter than me. So what did I do? I knew you were in the shul studying from 6 a.m. till 6 p.m. So what did I do? I stayed a few more hours more than you, and I studied, I reviewed more than you, and even though you're smarter than me, I now have the Torah in my pocket, and it's more accessible, and that's brought down in Mechudadim Bepicha 71. So interesting that a person, even if he's not so intelligent, if he sits and he's matmid, he's going to learn and he's going to review, the Borei Olam will open his mind. Don't underestimate your capabilities. 100%. Don't underestimate and say, listen, okay, what do you want? I didn't go to yeshiva. I didn't kibbutz. I didn't learn. I didn't tzava. How much do you press, bro? How much do you lift, bro? Suddenly, everything, they ask everybody every other question, and you're underestimating yourself. And you know, that's why it says, Poteach et yadecha umazbiya lechol chai ratzon. Interesting. God, you open your hand, and God gives you your will. How many people here in this room can tell me that they actually have what they actually want from God in their will? People say, what do you mean? I'm asking for a lot more. Well, God gives you what you really believe you're supposed to have. Your will. When God knows what's in your mind. So He knows your will is this. He gives you your will. If you believe in yourself that you are nothing, more often than not, they'll say in the SHAMAYIM, Amen. If you believe that you're capable by reviewing and learning more to become more intelligent, Hashem will say, Hazak Baruch, I agree also. And so don't underestimate yourself. A Chafetz Chaim student asked him about what he can do if he's not so successful in his studying Torah. And he feels that he won't become a great Talmid Chacham. They asked the Chafetz Chaim, he said, listen, I'm trying. I did it. He couldn't. He says, I don't feel like I'm going to become what I want to become in Talmid Chacham. The Chafetz Chaim asked, and who told you that the Torah demands us to become big Talmidei Chachamim? Who told you that's your? Who told you that was the goal? The Torah tells us that we have to be to give our biggest and to be our best. Didn't tell you to be something. Told you just be the best that you can and do the most that you can, God never told you to go be a Talmid Chacham, and never told you to go be something that you can't be. But you have to do what you're capable. And God is not going to ask you, He's not going to tell you, okay, Johnny, why were you not like Yossi? He's going to tell you, why were you not Johnny? And at the end of a person's life, the scariest thing that it's going to happen, that may happen, is that God's going to show you what you could have become. And then what is Gehinam, according to one opinion that I saw, is that the person looks at what he could have been and what he is, and that is Gehinam, that every day he has to wake up, look what you could have been. Look what I intended for you, and look what you made of yourself. And they're going to show you in all the life's events, how had you taken that step, and you done this, and you done that. Yes. So we are. No. So there's certain things. Yes. When it comes to Talmid Chacham, it doesn't. It says whether he'll be wise or a fool. It'll say whether he'll become rich or poor. But the ability to grow and what you can be as your full potential, that's up to you. It's up to you. And a lot of times we become lazy, so we tell ourselves, it's okay, I'm not the rabbi. I'm not this. So what did you do? When you say I'm not the rabbi, what did you do? You put yourself down, and then you said, I don't have to know them. But why not? Why not learn and invent yourself more? Effort. Put your effort as far as possible to fulfill the mitzvah. When Rashi explains, you should make the effort of studying the Torah, as brought down in Meir Ene Israel. The Netziv of Naftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin, the father of Rav Chaim Berlin, said, who is a matmid? The one who studies every day the hours that he should study, and in those hours he studies well. He brought down in the Shichno Tidreshu. Okay, the Stipler said when a Ben Torah studies with effort and dedication for 10 to 12 hours a day for 5 years, he will surely be big in the Torah. That's a difficult study, 10 to 12 hours a day. The Stipler. But he said, you want to know what's the ingredient? If I tell you, hey, listen, you want to become a doctor, you have to go 4 years college, then you have to go medical school, then you have to go for residency. You tell me, okay, so what do you need to learn? You need to study every day, 6 hours a day for 7 years or 10 years, you become a doctor. Okay, I know what they need to rule. The Stipler told you want to become big in the Torah, 10 to 12 hours a day, 5 years straight. You do that, you get yourself on the way to becoming bigger than Torah. I heard from someone else that if you want to become a Gadol, you need to study every month 30 to 40 Dapim Gemara, minimum. You want to become a Gadol, you want to get to that level of where you can get to something, you need to study every day, minimum 1.25 page of Gemara.
But even the daf for me is just daf.
Yeah, but the daf is done quickly. Daf can also be done with depth and with more clarity. Using correctly our study time. We should use any available time to study Torah. In Kelim, there was a seder of only 5 minutes. And that's brought down from Rav Ben Zion Abba Shaul in Zichron Adasa 68. If we add up all those minutes that we don't use, they become hours and days in which we can even finish entire books. So in Kelem, what they want to do, they want to teach everybody the value of studying for just 5 minutes. So they made a 5-minute class. Very, very interesting. The Hafetz Chaim was known also. He did a 5-minute shiur and he made sure never to go over the 5 minutes, because he wanted to show everybody there's a big level even in just 5 minutes. And don't underestimate. You might say to yourself, okay, I can only study for a couple of minutes. It's not that important. Let me pass on it. No, 5 minutes is 5 minutes. We have to be on time before starting the Seder. This will give us good fruits in this life. Just as the Gemara says, for 6 acts a person eats his fruits in this life, but also the capital goes to the world to come. Among them is arriving early at the Beit HaMidrash. And that's brought down in Masechet Shabbat 127a. In fact, the person must leave the Beit HaMidrash at the very least at the end of their normal study time. So he's telling you here that if you want to succeed in learning, being on time to the class is very, very important. Being on time to the tefillah is ikad. Don't underestimate the guy who comes on time to the guy who comes a few minutes late. Rav Shach wrote, we shouldn't listen to the news. What do we gain by listening to what is happening in other countries? What benefit has listening to what is happening in the world? It's better to study a few lines of Gemara, understand the Tosafot, or read any Torah book, as brought down in Machshevet Musar 2-189. So very important. Today, Hadashot is number one thing. What's happening in Israel? Everyone's looking on their phones. Yeshiva world. What's happening on WhatsApp? All these groups. What is Rav Shach telling you? You don't need the news. It will not benefit you in any way. And usually, if it's that important, you'll find out about it without having to read about it. That's the maskana, the truth. And I could tell you, a person will be much more relaxed. He'll have more minuchat hanefesh without knowing that the Yemeni Houthis are hijacking the Maersk ship in the Persian Gulf or in the Red Sea or in any other place in the world, any other attack. So there's okay, I got it. You know, now that you know, okay, lemaskana, and what? Nothing. What did you gain from this? Nothing. It made you more stressful. You got more nervous. And now, of course, you need to know locally maybe what's happening, or you want to know in Eretz Israel some of the things that's happening. But to the point where you're constantly looking at the news, how many hours a day do you look at your phone for just that purpose? Maybe you did for 40 minutes a day solid. You're looking at your phone just for news. For what? It doesn't do anything for us. You know, Rabbi Miller used to always say, the Torah is tomorrow's news, and the newspaper is yesterday's news. There's nothing in the newspaper that's going to tell you tomorrow's news. It only tells you what happened yesterday. So the maskana, you want to know what's going to happen tomorrow? You study Torah. It'll do everything good for you. And of course, I'm not oblivious. You need to know certain things. If you're in business, you need to know the right business news for what you're doing or for the right things. But I'm talking today about the mass consumption of news all over the world, BBC and Al Jazeera and all these Hebrew channels, and it got to the level where you now know everything's just constantly being told to you. It'll never end. You could sit there all day and just being told information. Oh, in China this happened, and in Colombia that happened, and in Argentina this, and in Eretz Israel this, and suddenly the guy just never ends.
It's never good news.
And for the most part, it's never good news, and it's never going to end, by the way.
What about the people that stress about stuff they can't necessarily control?
That's everything in the news.
Like Bill Gates is putting, because he's putting something in our food, and because it's in our food, then we have to do this, and we have to move a country. You know, like, how do you calm someone down?
Okay, so the reality is, knowing facts about the economy, about food, nutrition, and health, I don't know if that's news. That's something a person needs to know. A person needs to know what he's consuming or what's going on directly around him or things that are affecting him. If there's going to be a major change in a country that's going to personally affect your life and your family and your kids, you have to wake up to that. I'm not telling a person to be oblivious. I don't think anyone would tell a person to be oblivious. But also know to what extent you could make a change. Sometimes you can't. And sometimes it's just not worth an effort to make a change. So you have to know that too. The Stipler said, something fundamental about a Ben Torah is not wasting time reading newspapers, even the religious ones. Even religious ones like, I don't know, Hamodia, let's say. That's Leket Hanagat Leben Torah, page 12. Today it's very easy to waste time with unlimited games and applications and apps on your phone that we can download from our cell phones. News from all over the world, including from Israel. All this is considered a total waste of time. The Hafetz Chaim never read a newspaper, even the ones that didn't have vulgar or forbidden things in it. Of course, we're not talking about when there's bad words. He always said, what are you going to find in those newspapers? Only sufferings and accidents. And we can't do anything about them. As brought down in LESHEM Tidreshu. So interesting. The Hafetz Chaim's opinion was, never read newspapers. I don't need to know the news. Doesn't help me. It just will put pressure on you. You're wasting your time. And again, I'm being careful because I'm in the business world and I read business news that's pertinent to what I'm doing or technology or things of that nature.
It's very different.
So I'm trying to make that difference because
don't consume your life with news all day, all night around you. Focus on the news that pertain maybe to your life. So, for instance, what if you're a journalist though?
Well, that's your
Yeah,
job.
That's your parnasa.
But by the way, if you are a journalist, you're definitely not going to be reading all the newspapers from everybody.
No, right.
The contrary, you're not going to be. You don't waste your time because you're the one who writes it, so you know how much.
Right. But you want to see what your competition is doing.
If you're working on Wall Street, you need to understand interest rates and all that. That's one thing.
Of course, you're gonna watch CNBC, Business Week,
exactly. But you're not gonna go listen to the Nigerian news.
Right.
Today, I'm talking about the fact that we have access to everything, and disconnecting.
All these telegrams, this.
And disconnecting is probably more appropriate.
Right.
And look, the Hafetz Chaim was giving you good advice. Hafetz Chaim was not telling you this advice because he didn't want you to know the news. He was telling you, look, I'm giving you advice to feel better, to be healthier, to be smarter and sharper, and put your investment in something that you're going to get a return. What's your return on reading the news? Nil.
Negative.
Nothing.
Nothing.
For the most part,
Just get depressed.
I argue negative.
there's nothing from it.
You down all the time.
So how what's a good way to stop the reading of the news and to read something else? Is you carry with you some like these small little books, like these ones. I like these small little books. Get any book that you like in Hebrew, in English, any Spanish, any language you like, and you keep it with you in your pocket like a cell phone, a small book. Anytime you feel like you want to read the news, something, you pull it out, you read a little Mishnah, you read something that you have. This way, you have something to counteract it. Because if I tell you don't read the news, you're gonna
swap it with something else.
Swap it with something else, because then you're not stuck.
They have to deal with like people who like.
Okay, whatever. Yeah, we understand. The Stipler told a young man, the way to achieve success in the Torah is not wasting time, but to sleep, eat, and do tefillah on schedules so you can have extra time to study more. Time shouldn't be wasted in politics or vain things, as brought down in the Shechno Tidreshu. So it's important that a person doesn't waste any time when he's sitting and he has his Torah schedule. You know, other than sleeping and eating and doing your tefillah on schedule, you have to make sure that you're not going to waste your time. Once time, people saw the Hafetz Chaim crying, and they asked him, what's the reason for this? The Hafetz Chaim answered, today is my birthday, and I began to reflect, what have I done with my life? With what tools will I reach the Shamayim? How will I reach Hashem? If I don't have Torah mitzvot, the question we must ask ourselves is, what will we say when God's going to ask us this question? A lot of times we dismiss this. We say, no, God is merciful, is Rahamim, He's going to let it go. Whoever says that God is a Vatran, the Gemara says not good things about what's going to happen to him. God is Ele Hapayim. He'll wait. But He's not the Vatran. He's not going to absolve everyone from their obligations. So when the Hafetz Chaim would have his birthday, he would say to himself, am I reaching my goals? As every year goes by, I'm 38, I'm 39, I'm 40, I'm 41. Are you growing or are you the same? Are you keeping at the same thing? And you know, Rabbi Mansour always teaches it. When you're learning the parasha now, we're learning Shemot. Ele Shemot Bnei Yisrael Habayim Mitzrayma. Are you still learning this parasha Shemot like you learned it in 4th grade? Like you remember it? Or did you upgrade yourself? Now you learned the Haramban, you learned the Ramban Nachmani, maybe you learned the Sforno, the Ora Haim HaKadosh. Did you learn Da'at Zekenimi Ba'alei HaTosafot? Now you upgraded the learning to another level. This is the Ikad. Every year, upgrade. I remember Rabbi Yitzhak Mirsky from BMG in Israel. He told me when I was in SLC as a little kid, he told me every year I want you to take a different mefaresh on the Torah, and I want you to read that mefaresh with the entire parasha. You do Shnai Mikra Achad Targum, and then you learn another mefaresh. And every year, after 20 years, you finish 20 different mefarshei Torah. And we have today in our possession over 1,000 mefarshei Torah that I can show you on the internet. Over 1,000. Besides Rashi, and besides the ones that are in the Mikra Kedot. And so a person needs to see every year, are you upgrading yourself?
And a lot of them are translated in English even now, fully.
Rabbi Shmuel Rozovsky studied with a student until very late at night. And at the moment, they continued their study at 8:30 a.m. Once that young man arrived 5 minutes late at 8:35 because they had stayed up late at night studying. Rabbi Shmuel Rozovsky was angry at the delay and told them, you don't study in this way. Which is interesting. So what's Rabbi Shmuel Rozovsky was saying is that he studied with a student all night. He came 5 minutes late in the morning, and he told them, we don't study like this. You want to come 5 minutes late? We don't study like that. You got to study on time, being prompt. Now, of course, amongst Sfaradim and Syrian, being on time is not something that's so common. It's impossible. But we learn from the Litvish and from the Polish rabbis, the yeshiva system. All the sharp teachers, they're like a knife cutting through a hot knife cutting through butter. They're on time. They're prompt, and it's good. And we learn, and we learn from them. There's a lot that we can learn from them. Time goes by and does not come back. The Hafetz Haim said, why do we need books of Musar? It's better to hold a watch and look at how life goes by so fast. As brought down in Meir and Israel, now one of the only gifts that you are given, that mankind is given, is time. And what does the Yetzer Hara want to steal from you? Only your time. He always will come up with everything to kill time. That's why the biggest Yetzer Hara and Satan today is the cell phone, the smartphone. Why? Because what does it do? It steals your time, and you see it stealing your time. What do I mean? A lot of times you're sitting, you look at your phone, next thing you know,
40 minutes.
Oh my God.
An hour.
An hour gone. Gone.
All you did was
And all you did is like this.
Scroll.
All these, all the avonot. He looked at all of them like this, but and the time is gone.
Right.
Gone. And you know what it does also? I'm going to give you a little bit of psychology because I'm in technology. Is that it messes up the mind to show you that you're not capable. A lot of times you're under the condition or pre-assumption that if you see something, it's going to help you to do it. But what ends up happening is when you see other people completing tasks and you're watching it, it takes away from you the will to do it.
100%.
It removes from you the will in your body to do it. And so a person has to be careful. A lot of times he sees people, what's the videos that get the most views online on YouTube? Are videos of people building things. Now, it's not well known that people that build things and record. Why? Because it's a tremendous hana'ah to watch somebody build something or to even do it yourself. So what does the Yetzer Hara tell you? He tells you, you're gonna do it, don't do it. Go watch it. So he watches this tremendous hana'ah. How many times people watch construction sites? They love to watch it grow, to see the process. Because you're taking away from your time, watching someone else build it. The Satan tells you, perfect, no problem. It tells you, exactly. And so this is the stealing of your time. And so you have to know, when you're going to go to battle with an enemy, you have to know what does the enemy want from you.
Right.
Imagine going to battle and thinking the Yetzer Hara, he wants you to do something else. The Yetzer Hara wants one thing from you first. He wants your time.
Right.
Because if you don't give him your time, he's dead on arrival. DOA. He cannot succeed. That's why they tell you if a person has a problem with the Yetzer Hara, moshchel the Bet HaMidrash. Why? In the Bet HaMidrash, you have the safe, you're in the home. You're there and you're protected, and then you can sit and learn Torah. We'll have one more thing we'll do. The studying anytime. The Mesilat Yesharim writes, and the Stipler clearly repeats it, our central mission is to dedicate ourselves to serve Hashem and to study Torah, since that's the reason why we came into this world. And that's brought down in Birkat Peretz 48. Therefore, we should use every opportunity to study Torah. Now, of course, as a male, you are a requirement. Women are not required to sit and study Torah. As a side note, that's probably why we see it a lot today, where when a rabbi opens a ladies' class, suddenly he has 300 women come to the class. And you think to yourself, oh wow, that's unbelievable. Yeah. Not one of those women are obligated to learn. Of course, they need to know halakha, they need to know musar, stories on the parasha, tehillim. I got it. I'm all for that. But why you can't get 300 men to come to your class at 12? Yeah, because the men are obligated to learn. And so it's much harder to get them to come. There are people who have succeeded at it. Rabbi Meir Yedid succeeded very well in Brooklyn. In Sha'arei Tzion, you go at night, you have hundreds of men coming to learn. But he's the exception to the rule. For the most part, you see, that's why you see when ladies' class opens, lots of ladies coming to learn. It's good. They should all come to learn, and they should learn amongst Rebbitzins and Rabbanits more than with men. That's the different topic. But the maskana, that's why you see it. We'll end with this. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen.